Well, unfortunately, I committed to reviewing episode 3 of The Acolyte. Now, I was pretty negative on my review of the first 2 episodes, which isn't the normal tone of this channel. I love making lore videos and talking about things that I love about Star Wars. But after watching this episode, knowing that I committed to doing a review, I looked over at my wife after we watched this and said one word.
Fuck.
Now, I'm going to be blunt here. This episode was a big, steaming pile of cat shit. Now, I was lucky enough to get some behind the scenes footage of my cat Fitz creating a scene from episode 3. This is the worst thing that I've seen in quite a while. The dialogue continues to make Attack of the Clones be Shakespearean in comparison.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
The acting is horrific, and when those witches were chanting and singing, I just about fell out of my chair laughing. They were able to get away with that kind of thing on the Witches of Dathomir in the Clone Wars in animation form, but here it just feels like a parody of Star Wars. And now let's talk about how they're really playing with fire on redefining how the Force works and what's possible. Now, they do a very good job of making it extremely vague on how they're changing it, but they do. Having any beings, regardless of gender, skin color, or sexual preference, whether it's two females, two males, or two aliens, having them successfully create a being, let alone twins through the Force, is absolute garbage.
That's not how the Force works.
Now, right now, there's undoubtedly some booger eater in the comments writing something stupid like this.
Star Wars has space wizards, but you're upset about two women creating twins?
So it's time to explain something about the fantasy and sci-fi genres that someone like this wouldn't understand. None of this, of course, is real in our world. So in order to become immersed in a story like Star Wars, where there's warrior monks that can move things with their mind, or Lord of the Rings, where wizards can fight a Balrog, or a Game of Thrones, where White Walkers can raise the dead, there needs to be a suspension of disbelief by the viewer, or by the reader if it's a novel. So we need to rely on the creator of the world to explain things and set up rules of the world, or in this case, a magic system, because that's what the Force is. It's a magic system. Now, when George Lucas created A New Hope, the Force starts off as what's called in this genre a soft magic system. There isn't a lot of rules. Obi-Wan gives us a quick explanation to Luke, who in this scene is acting as the surrogate for the audience, who's learning about the Force for the first time.
The Force?
The Force is what gives the Jedi his power. It's an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us and penetrates us. It binds the galaxy together.
At this point in the story, it's mysterious, it's opaque, and it lets the audience wonder about this crazy new magic. But as we work our way through episodes 5 and 6, and then we get the prequels where they introduce midichlorians and potential and the chosen one, we start to get more rules and structure, and slowly the Force changes from that soft magic system into a hard one with rules and structure. Now here, 40 years later, we really know and understand what's possible in Star Wars. Rules matter. It's about maintaining the suspension of disbelief. This is why you can't have something like Frodo climbing up Mount Doom and then Darth Vader jumps out and slices him and Sam in half, takes the ring while force choking Gollum. Or we can't have Yoda training Luke on the intricacies of the Force when Daenerys Targaryen swoops in on her dragon and burns everything down, and then Paul Atreides flies in on his ornithopter and shoots down the dragon. We would all laugh at this nonsense. So yes, just because Star Wars has space wizards doesn't mean you can just do whatever you want. Not without some serious backlash from people who actually care about the world.
No. 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 Hell no.
Magic systems are at their best when they're consistent. Having witches create beings in this show is not earned in any way. What makes this even more egregious is that it's not even the creator of the world that's changing the rules. It's a new writer and showrunner in Leslye Headland. Anyone new to this world needs to show us, the fans, that they care about the world and what came before it. Not on a surface level like adding EU aspects that she read, but deeper, like why George Lucas writes the way he does, what his actual purpose is for telling a story, and we're going to get to that in a second. Now, what The Acolyte is just a self-insert vanity project and a generic sci-fi show that's wearing the skin suit of Star Wars. The Acolyte is the Buffalo Bill of entertainment. It's holding Star Wars captive down in a well, gives it food and lotion.
It rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again.
But it isn't Star Wars. Look, if Leslye Headland or any writer wants to tell a story about witches creating life with magic, I think they should do it. And I'd probably give it a shot. A good writer can make it absolutely interesting. But to take a world that already exists, and one that just so happens to be the largest IP in the world, with a built-in fan base of millions, and fundamentally changes it to fit your story, it's lazy and disrespectful not only to the fans, but to the original creator. You're just masquerading as Star Wars, minus the heart and soul and the competent storytelling. This clearly isn't George Lucas' Star Wars, but there's a very distinct detail as to why that is. So when George Lucas would sit down to write, he would read for 3 to 4 hours first. Now this is from the Star Wars Archives book. He said that he would read folk tales and mythology, religion, as well as pivotal moments in history, sociology, anthropology studies about the way societies work, and how to put that into practice. I mean, he cared about the societies, how it worked across all cultures to figure out what would make them better or worse.
And the stories that I tell cut across all cultures, seen all around the world.
So what lessons do you think they're taking away from watching Star Wars in Italy and Malaysia and South America?
One of the main themes in the film is having organisms realize that they must live together, and they must live together for mutual advantage. Well, when I did Star Wars, I consciously set about to recreate myths and the classic mythological motifs. And I wanted to use those motifs to deal with issues that existed today.
He would then put that into his characters, which is why we have a beautiful arc of the hero's journey with Luke. It's about how he improves not only himself, but as society as a whole. Unfortunately, Leslye Headland, Kathleen Kennedy, and Disney as a whole pushes a different narrative. They do not believe in objective or universal truths. The hero's journey is to them unknowable. It's postmodernism. They believe that subjective truth over objective truth. There is no universal good or evil. The individual isn't flawed. It's society that's flawed and that needs to be forced to conform to the individual. So creators like Leslye Headland and her storytelling is taken with that approach. Her self-insert story is the only truth, and society is what needs to change. Even a Jedi murderer is justified because of sad backstory. The Jedi are the villains, and good or evil is only a point of view. Everything that you thought was true is a lie. This is why Disney Star Wars feels different. It isn't George Lucas Star Wars. Not even at its very core. It's just wearing its skin. It's the Buffalo Bill of entertainment. Look, I'm not one of those Disney haters. I love some of what they've created. Clone Wars Season 7 was phenomenal. As you can see right behind me here, I have a custom 332nd Company helmet. My channel, Phoenix Squadron, was taken from Rebels. Hell, I even named one of my cats Chopper after Hera's murderous droid in Rebels. But the Acolyte is something different. It's been a disaster from the beginning. The terrible decisions the characters make only to push the plot forward, the bad acting, other than Li Zhang-Jie, who I do happen to like his character, the disrespectful Padawan Jeki, and the way she talks to a Jedi Knight who outranks her, regardless if he's a moron or not, the incompetent Jedi Order, who should be at the height of their power right now, and now we have witches who could accomplish what even Darth Plagueis and Palpatine couldn't in creating two Force-sensitive twins just by using the Force. I mean, Palpatine took out the entire Jedi Order and turned the galaxy against them, but even he couldn't create a being with the Force. But these witches could, and they are made to be the victims of this evil Jedi. I don't buy it. Now, we saw at the end of this episode that all the witches are dead. Somehow. They aren't burned, so this is probably May's point of view, and we're going to see later in another episode that it was the evil Jedi that killed all of these peaceful, good-hearted witches, and that Torben couldn't live with himself for that, so he offs himself 16 years later. What a ridiculous episode. More terrible writing, more contrived bullshit, and oh, look, here's some deleted scenes from episode 3. We have one good thing coming up, and that is Arcane Season 2 is out in November, so we have that. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.